Good evening. It is Monday evening, March 30th. We have some major weather questions that are only going to be answered on patreon.com. I believe it only costs $3, possibly only per month or $5 a month. But the rest of the weather we're going to be speaking about over here, just those questions, very interesting questions. The answers are over there. I saved it for over there. So if you are a true weather enthusiast, I would think it's definitely worth it to hear the answers to those questions. But some of the questions that are just perplexing is just, in the Chicago area, the temperatures were significantly warmer than what was forecasted. It's not just it was significantly warmer. It was very clear that the forecast was not forecasting record heat to develop here in Chicago. The record heat was expected to be more out west, especially over Iowa. We also had some cities which underperformed in Iowa. So that was due to some cloud cover that developed over in Iowa. Regarding why the temperatures got so hot here in Chicago, that you would have to go to Weather with Enthusiasm on patreon.com. You'll be able to read more about that. But we did break a record at O'Hare Airport. The previous record was 78 degrees. And now we're holding at, according to windy.com, we've already hit 80 degrees. One of the fascinating things about the weather map this evening is that if you look at the high temperatures at many cities and you look at the current temperatures, we're currently right now, it's after 6 p.m., and yet the temperatures are exactly the same. It just shows you this warm front that moved through the area earlier today. That warm front is very much responsible for bringing this heat. Excuse me. For bringing a lot of this warmth into the area, and the air, we continue to warm. It just continues to warm throughout the day. So there's other things at play other than the sun and the surface heating. Had it just been the sun, 5 o'clock would have been peak heating. There's other things going on here, which is intensifying the warmth that you could read about again on patreon.com, the weather with enthusiasm. If you have no interest, that's wonderful. But if you do, it's only a couple dollars or so. Moving right along this week, it's a fascinating week, a very active weather pattern. It's a spring weather pattern for this week. That doesn't mean we don't go back to winter eventually, but we are at a spring weather pattern big time as 3 storm systems move across the Midwest this week, more active than usual. Usually, even in the most active weather patterns, at least in the winter, we can see 2 storms that move across the Midwest. This week, we have 3. Another fascinating thing is that the systems are actually relatively weak. They're weak systems, but nonetheless, the middle week, especially the middle system, Wednesday night into Thursday, for some places like Cincinnati, it might be more of a Thursday event. The rain could be heavy. When heavy, we're looking at maybe 1 to 2 inches of rain just from that system alone. When all is said and done, the 7-day totals for some of these cities, 3 inches, widespread 3 inches, isolated spots of 4 inches, especially as you head out towards Ohio. When you go a little bit further east, the Gulf moisture actually intensifies because the system has more time to pick up on the Gulf moisture, provided you're west of the Appalachian Mountains. So that's something to look into. Now, the system is, again, relatively weak. To give you an idea, so the system, what was actually forecasted to happen today was a 29.7-inch low, would consolidate, but also a little bit weakened to 29.8 as it moved across the Midwest. It would bring a pretty strong cold front through the northern sections, including Chicago, by tomorrow evening. That remains, it's not just a possibility, but the severe weather potential for tomorrow is very real. In fact, at this point, National Weather Services are telling us that all hazards are a possibility for tomorrow, especially east of Interstate 57, when the tornado, it's very small. The chances for tornado are slim, but it does exist. There is some shear to produce tornadoes east of Interstate 57, but in general, the main threats are large hail and damaging winds. That's true for a very large portion of the Midwest. It's that front that's going to be really the trigger point for these storms. The storm system itself, we also speak about a little bit more in the post that was put up on the patreon.com. You could read more about the storm system, how it's actually materializing. But the second system is, again, a weaker type of a system. When you look at the barometric pressure, it's, again, like a 29.7 or 29.8. It doesn't really seem to be intensifying. In fact, it seems to be weakening. Yet, the rain is just tremendous. The forecasted rain is just enormous. If you want to know why regarding that, again, you can look at those answers to those questions over there. The final storm system of the week we're going to speak about over here because everything makes sense on that one. A strong storm system is forecast to develop over the Oklahoma Panhandle of 29.6 as we head into Friday. This storm system is expected to intensify to a strong 29.4-inch low by Sunday morning. This strong storm system will bring Arctic air on the backside, producing a winter storm across the north, on the backside across Minnesota. A winter storm is expected to develop. Major snowfall accumulation is defined of 6 inches of snow or more. That's a potential for the areas of the bullseye. This is a wet snow, which will bring down snow totals, but nonetheless, we have a 6-inch snow potential for Minneapolis, Minnesota right now. They are in the bullseye for this one. That's system number 2. System number 1 could bring some snowfall accumulation also to Minnesota, but that is again connected to a weaker system. The weaker midweek system, which will be anything but weak for, if you were to judge it by precipitation totals of rain, for a large part of the middle part of the country, as a front basically stalls going from the plains all the way to the mid-Atlantic area. We spoke about yesterday more information about that regarding the Baltimore temperatures, some more of the Chicago temperatures. There's going to be portions of Chicago on Wednesday that might only see a high of 39 degrees. Other portions could easily get into the 50s because, we're going to be the front's going to be right around us, and that's for Wednesday. The warm air moves back into Chicago by Shabbos, ahead of the next strong storm system. It's the strength of the storm that's crucial for the winter storm. The midweek storm just doesn't have the same strength, so it can't really bring down the same amount of cold air. It's the weekend storm that's something that, if you're living in the upper Midwest, that's something you might want to keep an eye on because there could be significant snow with that system, especially regarding if any area that gets hit by that at night. We're dealing with a time of the year. It's already April where the sun's angle is high enough that it could interfere with snowfall accumulations during the day. Nonetheless, snowfall accumulation, a major winter storm. This is winter storm warning criteria could easily develop for the upper Midwest as you head into this weekend. There's nothing really too complex about it regarding, you don't have to ask any hidden questions over here, which would be put on patreon.com. All these storm systems have their own complexities, so especially in April, but that's just the way it is. There's nothing unusual yet regarding that. We have a lot of unusual things happening regarding the heat today. We had some cities that went up to 97 degrees out west, which are in the same latitude as places just like the regular, like Chicago and not Chicago, but St. Louis. You have some cities which are on the same latitude, hitting in the mid-90s out west, generally speaking, widespread 80s, but we had those isolated 90-degree temperatures and even mid-90s when you head out west. Also remarkable what the current temperatures are in these cities. More information regarding the weather you can be found on yesterday's episode and regarding the questions that are answered. The first question we answer is, why did Chicago get several degrees warmer than forecasted today, Monday, March 30th, 2026? Temperatures outperformed the computer models. Record heat developed, breaking the official March 30th record at O'Hare International Airport. Why did this happen? That's question number 1. We have a nice long answer over there. Question number 2. Did the low consolidate or did it deepen, and did high-resolution models crack the puzzle that the global models missed? One thing I could tell you, they did not crack the puzzle, and the question is, why not? This is something that also, the answer to that you could find on the Weather with Enthusiasm, patreon.com. Question number 3, why was the heat index a little bit lower today than the actual temperature at times for the Chicago area? Question number 4, how could a relatively weak midweek system still produce monstrous heavy rain? I want to tell you that Paducah, Kentucky, or Memphis, Tennessee pointed out that if they don't see 2 inches or more within a 24-hour period, they're not so concerned about flooding. But nonetheless, the 7-day totals could easily end up hitting 2 to 3 inches. Wilmington, Ohio said possibly 4 inches. So it's really a beneficial rain for most areas. Some of the northern areas could be worried about some river flooding a little bit, but this is something that's discussed over there. The next thing is practical monitoring. What should we be watching next? And those are things that are spoken about over there. But I am going to read the final paragraph where, because it has to do with severe weather. The most important thing over here is that all forms of severe weather hazards associated with thunderstorms are possible over the next 24 to 36 hours. This means some places in the Midwest for tonight, Monday, March 30th. In fact, even Chicago, there are some models indicating there could be a thunderstorm development not so far from now. The National Weather Service doesn't know exactly what to do with that because it may or may not happen. But tomorrow, as the cold front approaches later in the day, that's when the severe weather potential goes way up here in the Chicago area. In fact, the northern half of Chicago right now, on the scale of 1 to 5, they're at a severe weather risk of a 2. Just to tell you how that works, when you're at a severe weather risk of a 1, that's a 5 to 15% chance of seeing severe weather within a 25-mile radius from where you are. So approximately a 10% chance within a 25-mile radius. When it's a 2, it's approximately a 20% chance. So 15 to 25%. Some say coverage. Some say it means coverage. So it would mean about 20% of the area will be receiving severe weather within a 25-mile radius from wherever you are. It has different translations at different times. So the highest risk is large hail and damaging winds. However, there is a slight risk for tornadoes, especially east of Interstate 57. About right now, probably close to about a 2% chance for tornadoes. If we were to say that's 2% coverage, that means it's pretty significant. If it's just 2%, and some people are saying less than 2%, but the chances are slightly increasing. So east of Interstate 57 as the cold front approaches on Tuesday, March 31st towards evening. Stay tuned to local weather outlets or the National Weather Service for the latest on this developing hazardous situation. NOAA Weather Radio is often the best way and most efficient way to receive alerts. Otherwise, the Storm Shield app is also very good, along with the Red Cross Tornado app. These are especially useful during tornado outbreaks, and it could actually save your life. I'm going to end off with just a couple other things that could save your life. Is meteorologist Bob Clubbs he has a Patreon chat, very good with tornadoes. If you live in southeast Missouri or you live around Paducah, Kentucky, around that area, we're not talking about any significant tornado outbreak that's forecasted to happen as of right now, but there is a chance. And as we go through the spring, we know climatology tells us that we will be seeing significant tornado outbreaks as we go through the spring. Another person who's phenomenal is Max Velocity on YouTube. He, in fact, has had times where he's informed people of tornadoes before the National Weather Service has even done it. So literally saving lives. I believe Bob Clubbs has done the same. And while we're speaking about weather, we'll just tell you there's a weather podcast that's also phenomenal, not connected to tornadoes. He's only in 5th grade, maybe 6th grade. And at one point, I don't have access to YouTube right now, but when I did, he was putting out every evening for 30 minutes. He spoke about a whole national weather synopsis. He covered everything, super detailed and just super impressive. And if you really are into weather, that's something you might want to look into. It's probably the most impressive job I've ever seen, going through a weather synopsis, 30 minutes every night, sometimes even more, covering coast to coast, taking you through the computer models, GFS model, the European computer model. And I think he might have only been in 5th grade. The YouTube, I believe the channel is called Mr. Storm. It's something really, these are not things that are listed on the top 20 weather. This weather podcast makes it into the top 20 on the feed spot, which we spoke about just a couple days ago. There's many podcasts that make it on there. Many of the weather podcasts, there's 19. There's not actually 20. It says top 20. There's actually 19. But those didn't make it, but those are ones that I think are worthy of mentioning. So anyways, I wish everybody a Chag Kosher v'Sameach. Thank you for listening. and have a wonderful evening. Oak Park, Illinois, high temperature so far today, 81 degrees. Chicago Midway International Airport, so far today, high temperature has been 81 degrees. The record there, by the way, has been 83 degrees. Garfield Ridge, Bedford Park, Illinois, 85 degrees. LaGrange, Illinois, 83 degrees. Chicago O'Hare International Airport, high today, 80 degrees. Record there was only 78 degrees, so we broke the record there. That's worthy of something big. Thank you, Carl, for that. Franklin Park, Illinois, 82 degrees. West Rogers Park, 81 degrees. Mount Trashmore in Evanston, depending on what weather station you look at, 81 or 82 degrees. Skokie, Illinois, 81 degrees. Glenview, 81 degrees. Chicago Executive Airport, 80 degrees. Lambert International Airport in St. Louis, 85 degrees. University City, Missouri, 87 degrees. Berkeley, Missouri, 88 degrees. Creve Coeur, Missouri, 87 degrees. Thank you for listening. I wish everybody a Chag Kosher v'Sameach.